Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Rimshots with Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. And I'm here with, pardon me, mayoral candidate number 1234, Mr. Ryan Dodge. And I will say, everybody that I've reached out to has gotten back to me except one candidate. And so here we go. So, Ryan, thank you for doing this, sir.
Oh, thank you very much, Sean. Thanks for having me.
So, I guess what I always ask every candidate, why? Why do you want to be mayor?
Why?
Yes.
Well, okay, so I left Halifax in 2019. I was homeless and I had lost my children and spent 3.5 years trying to get them back. Didn't work out. And then I had to make a decision. Do I become homeless in Toronto or do I come back to Halifax and be homeless here? And I chose home because I knew that things had expanded. I knew that there were 30,000 more cars on the road, meaning upwards of another, 30,000 people we added to the city as well.
At least, at least.
Yeah. And so I knew coming home to that there was going to be a lot of changes, all of the buildings that came up, the change to the 102 coming off the Cirque, or sorry, on the Buy High there, mixing into Bears Lake just to Prospect area. There's been a lot of changes around the city, and the infrastructure has changed. That means at the same time that some of the things in the city have to change. One thing that I want to work towards is traffic cameras. But however, the Department of Transportation for the province won't allow us to do that, and they haven't really given us an answer why. So it's sort of things like that, like coming into like we've got more people here, so now we have to accommodate that, or at the same time, convince people to move outwards of the city and not just to Halifax when they're moving to Nova Scotia, because with the influx of people here, it's causing the prices of rent to go up, it's causing the prices of groceries to go up, it's causing the price of gas to, more cars means more gas equals more money, so keep the price up, right?
I've talked to every candidate so far that I've interviewed about, the housing situation, and it's really a federal problem, and it's caused federally, that's been pushed down, right? We'll call it trickle down economics. So now on the municipal level, the municipal governments of the country are kind of left to figure out a lot of it themselves.
Yeah.
And so, you say you were homeless, and I mean, I know a lot of people in the industry that you worked in that struggle to find places to live. I mean, I managed in that industry for a few years. What do you say to people that, you want to run and try to fix this? What would you say to them?
I would say don't give up. There is a light at the end of the tunnel here. We can't just coronate in downward on like the economic trickle you were talking about. We can't have a hierarchy trickle. We can't have that trickle down into our city, because if we do, then it's basically a way for the current federal regime to continue what they've been doing, and it's time we stood up to that. And that's not necessarily pledging allegiance to any other party outside of the Liberal Party. It's saying that we need to be more diverse in how we vote, and we have to get more people out to vote. It's the most important thing in our country. We've had democracy in Halifax for over 250 years now. So, and this is the most important city when it comes to democracy, because when whatever happens in Halifax in the next election is going to affect not only Halifax, it's going to affect Nova Scotia, it's going to affect Canada, because other municipalities need to start looking to other municipalities and start discussing what is it what we can do. It not just the mayors, the councillors of the other cities, they all have to get together, because we have constituents all over Canada.
I like that you addressed the voter turnout, because before we started, we talked about that ever so briefly, but I've talked about it with other candidates. And I do believe the turnout numbers were 39% of the eligible voters actually turned up to vote. So if you're in school, that's not a passing grade, right?
No,
That
it's
doesn't get
not.
you 50%.
No.
To me, that's unacceptable, for a number of reasons. However, I think people get to the point where they just don't feel that their vote matters, and that it doesn't matter where they vote certain people are going to get in. What would you say to that? How would you I guess grab the imagination of people to actually get them off their couch to go out and do their civic duty?
Well, I mean, it basically speaks to the Reddit stuff that we had talked about before that we weren't going to discuss and we won't discuss on a level of it.
Sure.
My level of controversy has upset a lot of people probably throughout Halifax or in regional municipality and forward outwards the rest of the county.
Yep.
So the fact of the matter is whether or not somebody likes me, whether or not somebody doesn't like me, I want to encourage people to come out and vote. And if I have to stick myself out in the light, as controversial as I am, I'm willing to do that because there's somebody needs to take on what the city is about to take on. And it's going to, if we don't have the right person in office, it's going to fall apart.
Mm-hmm. And I'll qualify it by this. You asked me if I had heard about the Reddit stuff. I said I didn't.
Yep.
And I said that, for me, this was about introducing the candidates to my audience.
Yep.
But I also believe that, anybody that I guess has the guts to throw themselves in the ring, to volunteer for an event, to be in a band and play on a stage in front, like anybody that puts themselves out there, when other people don't, I think at the very least they have to be heard. And this is why I'm doing this, right? And I don't know what your background is, and I don't know what makes you controversial. And to be honest with you, Ryan, like that's neither here nor there for me.
No, but
I
it will
think
be for some voters.
Well, that's fair, and that's on them to look. But I do think that it's important for you to have a say in this whole thing, because I'll be honest with you, I'm like everybody else in that, and I pride myself on being different. But when I see that list of people that was throwing their hat in the ring, I recognized two names and a whole bunch of people I didn't recognize, and I was a little ashamed of myself, and that's why I decided to do this. So, good on you for doing it. As far as controversy goes, I mean, again, I don't know what it is, and it really isn't any of my business.
No, I don't.
However,
don't even worry about it.
Yeah. However, for you to actually step up, because let's and I don't want to hog your interview here, but it's tough for somebody to go in against an incumbent because you're literally starting at zero. You're starting at zero volunteers, zero resources, zero money.
Yep.
What's that look like for you? Are people helping you out? How's it going?
Well, okay, so I find that the rich and the poor both have a way of speaking, and I find that they're both very similar. It's just with the poor, like myself, at that current stance, I can talk to rich people the way that rich people talk to rich people, because myself, I don't have anything to lose.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I'm still going to have a job. My boss is very adamant about me running. He's very adamant about me still working for him, even if I win. So I'm trying to, I want to try to bridge that gap between rich and poor so we can try to find some middle ground that's not just, hey, this is the middle class. This is a place where you can achieve to. Like, why can't we just all work together?
It's a great point that you bring up, because an awful lot of people that are not part of that 1% are intimidated by that 1%. And I guess when you figure out that, maybe they have stuff and big houses and big cars and maybe planes, but when you talk to them, they're not as dialed in on things as people think they are, right?
Yeah, like the pandemic. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go right ahead.
I was going to say the pandemic affected everybody. It affected rich and poor. Like when we look at debunking hoaxes, COVID-19 is a perfect example, because it does it affect rich people? It did. It did, because rich people were stuck at home too. Rich people were suffering. They weren't able to pay their bills some of the time. Like they've watched the price of groceries and everything else go up as well, and still having to make their car payments and still having to work their jobs in some form. They still they're the same problems. The only difference is the size of the wallet.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a great point. And I mean, for this, I wouldn't want to get into a discussion about class structure. However, you are right. At the end of the day, right, we all leave this world the same way we come into it, by ourselves. And so a lot of people don't get that. So I like what you're saying there, because I think it takes tremendous self-image to be able to say, hey, I'm going to talk to the guy that owns 18 condos and the guy that, barely has a pot to pee in. So good on you, man.
Which is what I do when I'm out working, and if I'm in a random spot and I see a constituent, like, doesn't matter if it's on Springvale Avenue, or doesn't matter if it's on Creighton Street in downtown Halifax, I'm talking to
Right.
whoever I'm coming across.
So this is a question that I've asked a lot of people, and some people understand it and a lot of people don't. But when they think of the mayor, they think the mayor is the person that runs everything. And it's actually the CAO of the city runs staff,
Yes.
but the mayor
Yes.
gets one vote around the table. So like it or lump it, you're one vote in, a plethora of other people. If you were to run for mayor and be successful, how would you, I guess, work with council to make sure that some of the important things to you were achieved?
Well, I think for starters that we do need to give some of that power back to the councillors and the mayor. Um, the councillors are delegating where this money is going to be going, but they're not able to allocate the budget themselves. And I feel that they should be able to do that. And at the same time, the personal expense accounts, like for the city, the councillors and the mayor, we should all have access to be able to see that publicly.
Yeah.
So that we can keep all of the councillors and the mayor in check, because the most important thing here is accountability. We can't have change without accountability. So I don't feel that if we have the right people, or sorry, I feel that if we don't have the right people in there, then it's going to just, be another cluster of what it's been for the past 30 years.
Yeah, and I mean it's the purest form of politics, if you will, because you're truly, you don't have to toe a party line. You get to talk to your constituents.
Yeah.
So that's great. But one of the things that you mentioned that to me, I was like, yeah, I'm glad somebody brought it up, is what they call these discretionary funds, where they can, I think it's 25 grand, it might be more now,
Yep.
that they can
Well, I mean,
do
like,
whatever they want with it.
and I was reading the charter, and one thing that one power that they have that in there is that if I were mayor, I'd be able to walk into a bar and buy literally everybody a shot of alcohol, but not myself.
Yeah, it's funny
That's
the way
how
it
it
works.
works. Is we can spend this money on our constituents, on our people in the city, but we're not allowed to spend it on ourselves. So I don't want to get into speculation on how it ends up that overspending gets done or self-spending gets done, or we know we've all speculated these things for quite some time.
Yep.
Well, if I want to get into family history, my grandfather, John William Dodge, was the runner of the command center for the 1995 G7 summit.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So basically, we saw how well organized that was. And
Yep.
I would like to take what I feel that I can build off of my own bloodline to bring to the table to try to fix maybe what's going wrong within the city.
Amazing. I'll say second last question. So I used to be part of, I've been part of many volunteer boards. I've been part of many committees. I used to help run the Dartmouth Whalers. I did it for 16 years, Dartmouth Whalers Minor Hockey Association.
Yeah.
And every time there's a new board or new people come in, it's great, but also there's sometimes is this whole feeling of, you know what, I'm running because you guys made such a mess and you didn't do a good job, and I'm going to fix everything. But in actual fact, people that came before, new people, do have some experience. Would it be your thought or idea to if you were successful, to ask any of the people that maybe were gone, some of the things, just ask them for advice and ask them for thoughts and different sorts of things like that?
Well, I mean, I have been moderately in touch with the last warden and first mayor of Halifax, Laszlo Lichter. He reached out to all the candidates. He's got his own allegiances, I'll say that.
Yep.
But I mean, he's still willing to chat if I reach out to him about the whole process and everything like that. I mean, the man just turned 92 years old there a couple of weeks ago. Right. So, I mean, his time in office is a little dated, but he does have the right idea still about how things should be, right? Like the man's part of the reason that we have Casino Nova Scotia.
Okay, well there you go. So he knows
right?
a thing or two.
Yeah, exactly. right?
Yeah.
So he knows what's needed, where it is, where it should go. And I've been thinking about like that with the homelessness issue, like the ball fields down in Bedford, how there's been all that flooding problem.
Right.
Okay, so what if we move the baseball fields up to the Bedford Commons area, and at the same time replaced the Penzance ball fields up in Bedford as well, and then turn both of those sites into elevated places for homeless, like more of
That's
those
a
mini
great
homes,
idea.
like more of those mini
Right.
homes like they have in Sackville. But I mean, yeah, like it's not, we can't just do something without having something in place to replace it, you know? Like we can't just say, oh, let's buy Penzance and put a homeless shelter there. We have to have something to replace for the children, and that's a 3 to 4 what are we on now for the Sackville ball field? We're on probably 9 months of construction now, I think,
Oh,
something like
easily,
that. Or no,
easily.
three,
Yeah.
no, 2 or 3 months. Sorry, I'm overthinking because I'm thinking back to when it
It,
shut down.
it will be 9 months, I'll guarantee you.
Yeah,
And like different other parts of infrastructure around the city that actually have nothing to do with the city, but certain companies seem to kick the can and projects go longer than they should.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, not everything can be like Ocean View Drive out in Bedford, where I just spent the last month doing my first job site. That place is chaotic.
yeah,
there are drivers that will come down a line of cars like that they think are parked, but they've got their stoplights on and they'll try to run the paddle. And it's happening so often. Like I think we need an increase in traffic police. But when I was speaking with a couple of HRPD officers, they were telling me that the problem is recruiting officers to come home to Halifax.
yep,
So I
yep.
mean, like
And
it's a
I know that to be a fact.
yeah, you can't have one problem, or you can't solve one problem without opening another, right?
That's pretty much. I mean, that's pretty much how things work for sure. So, last question, my man. Oh, and
Yep.
actually, second last question. So,
Yep.
I want to give a shout out to your profession because, like I say, I managed this for a number of years, and you work in the traffic control business. You're TCP or TWS?
I'm a TWS,
Okay,
fresh out of the box.
okay, so there you go. So, for anybody that's a layman that doesn't understand, Ryan would be one of the people that's responsible for not only setting up the site, setting up lane drops, setting up different sorts of things, but he's the guy that's responsible for it. So if it goes sideways, he's the guy that has to answer for it. So when you
Yeah.
guys are going through sites, just be cognizant of the fact that somebody besides yourself has responsibility. And good on you, because I don't joke around. I actually had to take the signers course, and it's not an easy course. And so
No.
anybody that passes to go. Last question, and this will be your pitch to my viewers. Why should people vote for Ryan Dodge?
Change. I mean, I've I've been down so many times, and even in the current economic standpoint that we are in right now, I have found a way, and my wife, we've both found a way to go from a tent to the south end of Halifax. I live in Waymason's district. So to go from there to where I'm at now in less than a year in the economic climate that we're currently in, I think I could apply that to the city and make things a lot better.
Fantastic, my man. And this will be the last question. Where do my viewers find out more about you, about your platform, about what you're looking to offer up?
Okay, so Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I don't post on TikTok that often. But it's Dodge #4 Mayor. Except on X/Twitter, it is Dodge for Mayor HFX. And I'm trying to navigate social media. I mean, I know that, like I said, my controversies follow me, and they will be made public at some point, but we'll cross that bridge when it comes.
Um, you wouldn't remember this because you wouldn't be old enough to remember, but this would be back in the, I want to say, 80s.
Yeah.
John Savage, who was Mike's father, was running
Yeah.
for mayor against Charlie Keating, and Charlie Keating was a legendary businessman. And they had a debate at center court at the old Micmac Mall. And one of the candidates, I don't remember who, brought up something, and it was dumb, and it was everybody went groan, but it was like, people kind of, I think people are over controversies now, man.
Yeah.
And I will say this, and this is not me being on a soapbox, but regardless of what people have in their past in terms of controversies, if they want to try to do, good and help their community and, and have a love of their community, who gives an absolute crap about any of that stuff? People should look past it and actually figure out what's what. So I want to
Exactly.
thank you for doing this, my man.
Oh, one last thing that I wanted to mention.
Please.
My it was is basically my political experience. Back when I was 17 years old, I was taken on as one of the contributors to creating the Halifax Region Municipality Youth Advisory Committee.
Oh,
And that was oversought by councillors Linda Mosier and Gloria McCluskey. So that was a 2-year span because I helped build the committee and then I sat on it for a year. So that's
awesome. And
just
I'll tell you what, Gloria McCluskey is one of my very good friends, and I often call Gloria just about matters of,
yeah,
everything from how should I deal with this person to what the heck's going on in the city. And Linda Mosier, God love her, I've reconnected with Linda because she's the partner of a good friend of mine.
yeah,
And Linda, those two ladies were spitfires, man. Like, that's, I think, what council is really missing now.
yeah,
So hopefully we'll see some of that. Look, I want to thank you
yeah.
for doing this, my friend. Best of luck. It's a long haul, but before we know it, it'll be October. So
I know.
good luck, my friend.
Oh, I know. Thank you very much, Sean. Have a great day.
You as well. Back
Thanks.
after
Take care.
this.
Cheers.